And WTAR TV4 now begins broadcast history in Tidewater.
Like they really were going to see something, and never did.
And at that time, it was a new field. We had never seen television. We were kids. We were in awe.
Place.
This control room has just about everything electronic that you can possibly produce for the control of television pictures and the audio side of the television output.
When this broadcast facility there were thousands of people. There were lines to get in.
6 o'clock, April the 2nd, 1950. It was in the Summer Theater. That was the first time that Tidewater had a chance to see television.
It was nice, the feeling like we had the only toy in town and to play with, but the people at home could play with it too.
The Jack Benny Program, presented by Lucky Strike.
In those days, it was live, and it had to go on the first time.
Boy, what a miserable night I had. When I woke up this morning, I found out that Rochester had rearranged the furniture, and I was sleeping on the table.
I had no idea what it was like. They had no way of previewing anything on the air.
For the first 3 years, TV4 had the cream of the crop of network programming. But that all changed in September of '53.
We could no longer be affiliated with NBC, CBS, ABC, and Alan B. Dumont. And it was a tough decision because the radio station, which had the same ownership, had been an NBC affiliate for a long time, since the mid-30s. And so when the station switched to CBS, CBS sent down their brightest stars. Ed Sullivan came down with a troupe from New York, again back to the Norfolk Arena for a live program called Toast to WTAR, which was hosted by Ed Sullivan and a lot of people who were very popular at that time, comedians, singers, etc.
In addition to Ed Sullivan, there were people like Robert Q. Lewis, who was a well-known comedian at the time, Mel Torme singing.
Stick with me, baby, I'm the fella you came in with. Luck be a lady, luck be a lady, luck be a lady tonight.
More changes followed in '54.
Wheel 4. And there was a station in Washington that was causing interference, it was co-channel interference. And the FCC required that we change over to Channel 3.
But perhaps the biggest changes at TV3 have taken place in television technology.
It was great when we first got our motion picture camera to do film for the news department.
And then came color. This rewrote everything. When first color came again to the network levels. So the network started sending down a color signal. Fine. So the local stations had to buy a transmitter that would send a color signal.
Color television had an impact that was long-term. When it was first used, color, you have to remember that not everyone had a color television set in his or her home, but it gave a whole new dimension, of course, to the newscast.
When we first got color film capability, we decided to go out and do the Azalea Festival on film, in color. And that was our first locally produced color program.
It's quite a time between the time of shooting the film and the time of getting it back. I know of several occasions where we had what we call a hot news story in Richmond or in Williamsburg, areas of that type, where we actually had to fly the film back by helicopter in order to get it processed and get it on the news for that evening.
These processes were huge. You would think you had a landing pad for an airplane, but this processor would process, and it would take like 2 hours in the afternoon. And Ben and Phil Trahadius would say, now look, the film has to be in here no later than 2 o'clock, because by the time we get it through, the time we get it washed, rinsed, and dried, and then edited, we're going to be lucky to get it on the 6 o'clock or the 5:30 news.
And then when videotape came around, that was the beginning of television as far as I'm concerned. That's the biggest thing that's ever happened in television.
Television is probably the invention that has changed the world. But when tape came in, it changed television.
NewsCam 3, a mobile news machine that can run down a story day or night, anywhere in Tidewater, and can bring it back alive.
What evolved but the mini cams, and that made it so beautiful because the photographers could just actually see what they were shooting, and in an instant or two, they would have it back at the station, and it could be on the air in very short order.
And now we're into satellites and microwaves, and everything is now. And television is really a little now like radio used to be. Radio with the telephone, you could be on the air right now from anywhere you wanted to. Well, television's not that far away now.
All over the world, they are seeing things as they happen, whether it be the tearing down of the Berlin Wall, the signing of new democratic treaties in some of these foreign countries. And it's just exciting to see what television is doing to make this world of ours about the size of a golf ball.
But nature still occasionally plays havoc, as it did this past December.
I have been here since that place was built. In fact, that's where I first went to work, was in that transmitter site. And in all those years, we never had an occurrence of the ice falling from the tower and destroying the roof. It all practically totally destroyed the roof to the place. Dropped ice, water, and all kinds of stuff into the equipment. You can imagine a transmitter with 7,000, 8,000 volts involved in it and water pouring into it, like gigantic explosions. And the building was a mess inside, of course. So they had a large crew of people out there cleaning up, including, by golly, the general manager of the station. He was out there with a vacuum cleaner and push broom.
Water to go, you're going to have street flooding.
Coming up later, it's 40 years of bloopers. But first, laugh with the stars of the 50s, when Moments to Remember continues.
Honey, don't cry. People loved television. It was an event.
Good evening. Tonight we welcome a very good friend. Ralph Bellamy stars on the General Electric Theater.
If you had an antenna on your rooftop, you gained new friends. People in your neighborhood you had never seen before came over to pay you a visit to watch pictures come through the air and be received by this wondrous thing called television.
Every parent, as a rule, wants his kid to go to school and select a most respectable career.
He should try to make it go as a fancy medico, as a lawyer, or perhaps an engineer.
Early successful television comedy programs were direct derivatives from radio.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. You must meet the Mrs. McGuire.
These were very successful radio programs, Burns and Allen, Red Skelton, things that were successful radio programs that families had been used to listening at a certain time on their radio for many years.
Now, Bing, here's what I wanted to talk to you about. See, I'm going to do another television show pretty soon, and I'd like to have you as my guest on this show.
Oh, I'm flattered, Jack. I'd love to be on it.
It'll be absolutely wonderful. You know, Bing, I can just see it now. I'll come out on the stage first and tell some jokes, see? And then you come out and sing a song. Then I'll go back, then I'll come out, and we'll do some jokes together, you see? Then you can sing another song, then I'll come out with the violin. See, and we'll do a couple of numbers together. Terrific. That'd be sensational. How much money will you want?
$10,000. Hey, Jack, come on, get me down out of here.
I'm going to let you down and you come down on your price.
Oh, no, you don't. I won't budge. I'm going to stick to my price.
You better do what he says, Bing. I've been up here for 4 months.
You know, Gracie, I thought of something today that you will never remember.
What?
I still owe you $3.
No, dear, it's $8. I gave you 10 the day we were married.
Arthur Godfrey was one of the true superstars of television. Again, he was a radio personality, a strong radio personality.
Hey, I got a good stunt for you. Put your left hand on your nose and your right hand on your ear. I'll change it. Change it. Try that. That's more fun. Cross your hands like this. Hold your nose in your ear, then change.
The Arthur Godfrey radio program on CBS was simulcast by CBS television and radio, but it was a radio program. I mean, the man wore a large headset while he was on television with a large microphone because his first concern was about the listening audience, not necessarily the viewing audience. I think the formula that was in effect in the early 50s with game shows was the fact to do it as cheaply as possible.